Hey everyone, thanks for joining me this evening. Good to see you. Hope your holidays were excellent and awesome. Um, Mine was pretty chill. Looks like we got a few people in the chat already. Um, yeah, actually, I just realized I don't have something up that I want to have up, and I didn't disable Flux. Kevin's gonna laugh at me. There, boom, nice, bright and blue. At least they're the correct colors. How's everyone doing? Uh, Tell me, did you get anything fancy for Christmas, Hana Kwanzaa? Kevin is asking standing desk today. Yes, so I'm gonna give standing during the stream a try. My desk is actually hand crankable. I got a crank over here, hand crankable adjustable desk, and so is my wife's over here. So what we do is IKEA has a hand crank leg system called the Bekant, Bekant. Oh, check this out! I added the actual Twitch chat in here, so I can actually chat with y'all if I need to type something. But the Bekant system has the hand crankable ones. I think it's also got the automatic ones, but the hand cranks, I was able to find them in the as is section, like the clearance pile for $75 each, and then just a cheap top, a couple other things. I have a really nice setup for a standing desk, so that's what I did. So yeah, we're gonna give it a try. I spent most of my day sitting here working on stuff and getting things done. So my back is a little tight, and yeah. So I'll be here. If you see me rocking, and maybe I'll come across this a couple times in the day, but I have myself a little like balance board. It's just a little piece of plywood and a 2x4 on the bottom. And you could see I beveled it with just a plane so that it rocks kind of nicely. And I find that having this under my feet while I work really goes a long way to making my lower body and my back feel really activated and such as I work. So I'll actually be doing this as I'm working. Now I don't want to be too distracting on the stream, so as long as my back feels good, I'll do that. And then if we get to a point in the evening where I need to take a little break and maybe sit down, I'll go AFK for a minute, crank it down. It won't look like anything to y'all. So good question, Kevin. How many of you out there use a standing desk? Any of you? I am going to make the announcement on Twitter that it started. I hope there's nothing too embarrassing up there when I pop it up. Not that you can completely see. Oh, you can't even see it. Look at that. You can just see my new little background picture up here. That's funny. Hey. It doesn't seem to want to let me focus the window. There we go. I don't know what is going on. I think OBS is overworking my system a little bit. Man, it is ghosting letters hard. I don't use a standing desk. I'm too lazy, Kevin says. Well, part of what keeps you from being lazy is standing up, right? Like, it's just, I have back issues, and also, so the Herman Miller Aeron desk, that chair, that chair that you see in like everyone's office with the mesh bottom and back, like, man, I don't know why, but that thing is horrible for me. It cuts the circulation off to my thighs and just makes me really uncomfortable. And so I end up doing this thing called perching, where I sit at the edge of my seat all day, which is better for my legs but not so great for my back. And so I really do need to mix it up. I've even had a doctor tell me to do so to keep myself from being healthy. Keeps me healthy, keeps my blood flowing well, avoids any risk of like clots from sitting too long, that kind of thing. That took me so much longer to write than it should have. Just too busy thinking. You hate those too. There are whole websites dedicated to that. So if you, I'm not even gonna lie. If y'all are on Twitter, go ahead and please like or retweet that tweet. Get it out there. I'd love for more people to join us. And then I'm gonna do one little thing real quick. You're gonna see behind the scenes a little bit, just the top of it. But I forgot to get my little counter up that tells me how many people are watching, and I love doing that. It helps. It feeds me. It gives me motivation. Let's see, where is it? Viewer count. Yeah, I don't know. Something about like when you see that more people are joining, it gets me excited. And so you can see it start to pop up here. I'm gonna hide that down in the. I'm actually gonna use something called Divi. I don't know if you've seen this before. It's gonna get put down here. You'll see it when I'm in this. This mode here where I have the big screen, to the monologue scene as I call it. I've been doing some fancy work. You might notice I have the new like little top bar up at the top where you can see the like the name of the stream, and you can see what my Twitter handle is if you're not following me, or my GitHub profile if you haven't gotten that. I also spent some time adding like some special tickers and stuff. You'll see if people make things. We can go to the stream real quick. We're going to get some meta action going on here, but I do want to show you. I've added some new panels to the channel if you haven't looked. So I'm pretty excited about that. Binary Sloth 3 says production value is A-OK. It's on point. Good. You know what? Oh, I added hotkeys to switch scenes. So now when I'm trying to show you something and I can't see it, show it to you, like I can remember to switch that and look at that. Boom. We've got a new follower. So you might see down here that I have these new panels. So that's exciting. You can see what gear I'm using. You can make a donation if you want. Like if you're really excited to like be here chilling and you think my time's worth something, you can do that. But I'm pretty excited about this. These commands here. Yeah, checking it out. All right, they're working. So the next time someone asks me, "Hey, what's your editor, man?" You can just be like, boom. You can tell them. Look at that. That's sweet. I think that's really cool. Maybe I'll make some more details here. I'll get some more links here, like my blog and that kind of thing. Speaking of blogs, I don't know how many of you hang out on Medium at all, but I wrote a recap of my 2017, and I put it up on Medium today. Ooh, looks like there's some activity on it. Kyle Holmberg clapped for it. A few others clapped for it. Some claps, lots of claps. I'm going to just pull it up real quick just so y'all can see where it is. I'll put a link in the chat. I am loving this, that I now have the actual Twitch chat in here, and I can talk to y'all. I can leave y'all notes. Like, that is so cool to me. I'm glad I have figured that out. I wish it was a little bigger so it was easier to read. Maybe I'll work on that at some point, but yeah, give it a read. Lots of good things, some bad things. 2017 was like a really cool year for me. Kevin's like, I want blog command. Okay, well, why don't I show you how I do this? Nightbot TV. So this is a bot for Twitch, and I'm gonna log in. It won't show you anything, and then I'll make a command. And I'll make a custom one. Y'all are getting a behind the scenes look. We'll do blog, and we'll pop up. Okay, let's see if this works. Boom. There you go. So it's a pretty Kevin's like, sorry, I'm top chat spammer. Let's see this. Top command, what you doing? Top chatter, Kevin Van Gelder. Well, That's awesome. I think it's great, Kevin. You deserve it. I think when Nick Code Monkey gets in here, she'll give you a run for your money, though. Um, yeah. I feel like I need to update the Twitch one, but I'll get to it in a little bit. But yeah, what you doing? What am I doing tonight? Well, so we've been working on this. We've been working on this application for a couple weeks. I'm just having fun. I'm making it up off the top of my head. And it's a talk planner app. Like, I have this idea of like being able to basically input an idea into a box, and then in any direction be able to click open a new box and go with a new thought. It's kind of based loosely on slides.com's presentation feature, where you can actually see all your slides all at once. And I'm mostly just doing it for fun. I don't know if I'll actually finish it. Hopefully we do. If not, like, it was just an idea. I haven't really touched it during the week or anything like that. It's not something I'm coming back to. So unfortunately, like, every week I come on the stream and it's like I can't remember what I was doing. But that's okay. I figure, there's another thing. I'm trying to be all professional about this. I'm going to try actually learning how to do this. Like, I've never been a command tabber to switch to my various windows and terminals and stuff like that. I'm going to try and do that for y'all, because I feel like this is a better experience. I feel like this gives you a better experience getting to see the chat at all times and that kind of thing. So please give me feedback if you prefer something else. I'm definitely open to that. I'm definitely open to improving how this works and looks. And yeah, I know I can make this a little bit better. Mitch saw I can never get in the habit of hotkey screen switching either. Yeah, I full screen my editor and my my terminal, and I have them in a very specific order. I've always done it this way. I've done so Chrome, or I should say my browser. It is mostly Chrome, like 99% Chrome, except for browser testing. I'm a bad person, I guess. Chrome, editor, terminal, and it's always in that order. And like, I'm just so used to doing the 3-finger swipe on the trackpad. It's like just my jam. It's how I work. But yeah, so I thought today maybe what it would be a great thing to try and do if you've never done it before. I think this is really interesting, but we're going to try and add Firebase into this application. We're going to try and we're just going to try and set it up. I'm going to have to make a brand new Firebase app. I don't have one ready. We're going to do all the things I've done in the past to get it working. I actually have... You might see me occasionally refer to my other screen here that you can't see, and that's because I have another application up. I just have the code base up that has I've done this before, and so I might refer to it and its notes. And I'll say this right off the bat, and I'll say it again when the time comes, but you're going to see some of my... You're going to see some of my secrets, like not like my secrets, but you're going to see some secret variables and stuff that Firebase is going to give me today on stream. I'm going to say it right now. We're going to put it together tonight, and then I'm immediately going to delete the application so that there's no risk of my keys being out there, but you can see the process of actually setting it up. So I see a few things in the chat. Mitch Saw says... I can never get in the... Okay, and then Binary Sloth 3. That's a great name, by the way. Binary Sloth 3. Very clever. Hi, Mom. If your mom is Mitch, that's interesting. Mitch has said, I've had a MacBook Air for years now, and I don't even know how to do it. I still don't know half the things I can do on a Mac. So, funny story there. My first dev job, I was given a Mac laptop, right? And I had literally never used a Mac in my life. I think the first month there was just me searching what are the shortcut keys to do this and do that and do this. And it was funny because I couldn't even do things like copy paste. It took me forever to kind of learn. And now the funny thing is I'm so used to them that I struggle the other way now. I can't go back to a Windows machine. I guess I'm fucked either way, right? Like, I don't know. Um, so yeah. Uh, okay. Uh, Mitch Saw says no coding. I just want to learn how to use the OS. That's funny. Maybe that's how it'll work tonight. I don't know. Okay. So with that being said, let's kind of get going. Let's try and get Firebase into this app tonight. If we have extra time, I want to check out this. My buddy Nitin just made a new Chrome extension that is a React Perf dev tool. I haven't had a chance to open it and put it in an application yet. I'd really like to get to this at some point tonight. And then I guess another random thing to share with you about my week is I've been learning MobX. I felt it was finally time to be responsible, and somebody donated. Hot shit, I missed it. I'm going to have to look at it. I'm just going to say thanks. Thanks, whoever donated. Maybe I can see it on... Man, I'm going to have to work on this stuff. I'm gonna have to work on how it's there, and so I do it. I don't actually get to see the alert box. It's just on the screen, and I don't look over. But maybe I'll have a bot put in the chat for me in the future. But back to MobX. I felt it was finally time that I learn it, and I'm finishing up a course now this week. And I'm going to start learning MobX State Tree later this week. And I can definitely see the appeal of it. I can see why people really like it. I think it is the... what? What? I'm sorry, Ahi. I'm going to have to turn those off. I'm sorry, man. I don't know how to turn off those mods yet. Give me a second. I have no idea. Man... I hope you guys can just put up with me just trying to figure all this shit out. Okay, spam protection. Excess caps. Okay, that's what happened. I'm just going to disable all this stuff. Binary Sloth 3 asks, what is MobX? MobX is another state management library for React app. Well, JavaScript apps. You don't have to use it in React, but it's quite different from Redux. It involves using mutations and computed properties and actions. So honestly, me working with Ember, I'm very familiar with a lot of the terms going on there, and ironically, those are some of the things I hate about Ember. But what are you gonna do? That being said, it's so much less boilerplate than Redux, and I understand why that's appealing, because people, they don't want to figure that shit out on their own. They don't want to have to do a lot of the they don't want to do the why do the work if the library will do it for you, is kind of, I think, the mentality maybe. So we'll put MobX on the screen at one of these points, not tonight, but we'll cover it when I know it like really, really good. So cool. I am Clayton Ray says he does the exact opposite. Have I ever used Swift? No, I have never used Swift. And Ahi congrats me on learning MobX. Good. It is, I could see it why it's great for quick apps, because like it's just like boom, I have some computed state. It's really good. All right. Keep asking your questions. I always love answering them. I'm gonna try and move forward. I think I'm much better at the talking part than I am at the coding, getting shit done part. But I have fun. I hope you're having fun. Seriously though, no one's told me like, what did you get for Christmas? Didn't you get any gifts? I just got some money. That's really what I got. But I think I'm gonna use it to buy me a new 3-wood. Some of you might know that I was a scratch golfer at the age of 15, and I was a collegiate All-American, and I don't get to play much these days, but it's really exciting when I do, and I actually think I'm going to try and get back into a rhythm of maybe finding some local tournaments to play this summer. I think that could be fun. Ahi says, hair regrowth pills. Did you get regrowth pills? Because if you seriously did, that's I feel like that's mean. Like, you just gotta embrace the baldness. Actually, here's some news. Let's see if you can see it. Yeah. So I don't know if you saw it on Twitter, folks, but my main sport these days is ultimate frisbee, and I was playing this past Saturday, and I was making a cut deep, going as hard as I possibly could. Someone put up a pass, and man, I had to full out layout dive to grab it. I grab the disc, but I catch it so low to the ground that it actually drags my arms under me. And then my hat had come off somehow, and my head hit the turf, and I slid across my head for a few feet. Held onto the disc. I got the score, but I got some turf burn on the dome. So I think I'll be wearing a hat for like at least 2 more weeks and maybe not shaving my head. It's gonna be interesting. Let's see. Mitch Sauce's Tiger Woods, AK Kyle Shevlin. I wish, man, that guy was he's so good. I'm so glad he's making he's coming back. I don't think he's ever gonna be what he was, but I hope him the best. And I would love to see him win a couple more majors before he's done. Ahi turned the usual money gift cards for Clayton Ray. Ahi turned 30. Hey, welcome to the dirty 30s. Honestly, they're the best years, other than that your bones always ache. Kevin got a battery for jump starting cars and motorcycles. Good, that's good. Mitch Saw is also excited for golf season. He lives in Cincy. Yeah, brutal winter, man. I get that. I hear that. It's so wet here that I often forget to start playing in the spring. It's not about cold. It's just so wet here. And here is Portland, Oregon. Maybe I should put that in my about, like, so people know that. Kevin's responding to my, thank you, people. It didn't act, I was so pumped up when it happened that I didn't even like think about how it hurt. I literally was just so stoked at making the catch. It was like top 10 Sports Center worthy kind of thing. And then Binary Sloth 3 says Ultimate Frisbee is so fun. It is so fun. I've been playing since college. Where are you? Portland. OR. Bahul, that's pretty much what my setup is. I have some big headphones too. I just don't wear them during the stream. Boom. There goes my notes. So I have these. These are Sennheisers. They're the I don't know if you could see that. The HD 280 Pros. They're about they were about $100 when I got them. They're excellent. Bass response is pretty darn good. They're meant for like studio headphones, like doing music. So that's why I got them. They're not like like noise canceling or anything like that, but they're really good. They really lock in air. They relock in sound. They don't let any bleed out. So I like them a lot. Kevin's like manual bot mode. Hello, Rachel. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining the stream. For those of you just tuning in, we've been having a good time with these new commands I added to the stream. So yeah. Oh, I also had this idea, and I'm just seeing it because I noticed on the screen. But Fastly, the company I work for, like doesn't quite realize, but they're getting like some great branding advertising going on right now with the hoodie, right? So just throwing this out here. But if you ever wanted your company like sponsored on the stream, or you want to sponsor me or something like that, I will accept sponsorship in the form of hoodies with your logo across the chest. You can never have enough hoodies. I'm just saying. You successfully drive. See, you guys think it's distraction, but for me, the connection with people is just as good as anything else. All right. So FirebaseGoogle.com, you're going to want to go to the console, and this will take a few seconds, but it'll pop up a console where you can see the other apps I have. I hope it doesn't show anything. It shouldn't. That would be silly. But I have a couple other apps. A meal planner I've been working on for a while. a app to keep track of habits, and then I had an app to keep track of my D&D character for a while. But let's add a new project, and we're going to add it for this one, and we're going to call it Talk Planner. And it'll come up with a project ID for you. And we're just going to create a new project. And it should open up. So for those of you who might not know what Firebase is kind of like a free, cheap backend for your applications that Google will provide you. It's kind of a document-based database. It's similar to like MongoDB in that way. There are some differences. Granted, I don't know MongoDB terribly well, so there's definitely things that are different, and I won't really be able to tell you what those differences are. But like the key is that this is very simple, easy to get fired up, and pun not intended there. But it gives you all sorts of things built in. It gives you like the big win for me is like authentication. We can set up authentication today really, really easily. And it's really great for that. Backend as a service. Thank you. That's a great term. That's the term I was looking for. So if you're like me and you're a front end dev, but you have ideas that kind of require storage beyond like local storage, which we'll actually have to disable because we have local storage in our app. We'll disable it at some point. But this is great for a way of spinning up an app quickly and kind of having that back end feel to it. And yeah, we'll see how much I remember. I'm going to be looking at docs tonight, that kind of thing. But we're making a web app, right? So you can make it for iOS or Android, but we're making a web app. So we're just going to hit this, and it's going to give me some code. And this is the code that has my secrets in it. You're going to want to... You're going to jot this down and try and steal my shit, but as soon as this is over, like I said, I will delete it. But we're just going to copy this for now. But we're going to need to add this all to our web app to get it working. What this is essentially this script tells it to fire up Firebase, and this config tells it which Firebase to get, and then the initializes the Firebase application so that you have this thing running in your client. I'm going to close that, but we're not going to do it that way. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to add a couple, we're going to add three packages to our application to kind of handle this stuff. So let's go to our terminal. I'm going to bump this up if I can. I'm going to have to reshape this so that it's the right size. But let's do yarn. Oh, this is the wrong thing. CD Talk Planner. There we go. I almost added it to the wrong package. And let's clear that out. Can you see that? Yeah, I think y'all can see that. All right. We're going to do yarn add Firebase, which is the SDK itself. We're also going to add the .env package. This is a great package for handling environment variables in your application, and I'm going to show you how to set that up and get it working. And then to make that work in our React app, I'm also going to add a .env webpack, which is a package to allow us to have the .env variables like injected into our bundle. So yeah, and then these are all, you know what, I'm going to do these, Firebase should be a dependency, so we'll just do yarn add Firebase, and then we'll add the other ones as, development, dev dependencies. I'm not always super clear on like where things should be, but I'm pretty certain on this. Like we'll need Firebase for the end product, so it is a dependency. Whereas the other ones are really about the dev environment, about getting things working and set up. Hello, King Daro. Nice to see you. Nice to see everyone. I really hope like your breaks. I hope you're getting a time off. If you're a dev, I hope you're getting some time off. If you're not, I hope you're getting some time off. I don't know about you, but if you have some time off, like Are you learning things? What are you trying to like spend your break like maybe learning, or are you just resting? Why don't you tell me what you're doing with your break? Um, if you ever want to use GraphQL, GraphCool is a great backend as a service too. Um, huh. I mean, I've heard of that for sure. I haven't given it a chance yet, and I've definitely just barely dabbled in GraphQL. Why don't I set that up in another project? Maybe I'll even do that next week or something like that in the future. I think that's a really great idea. Since that is such a great idea, let's add it to the Trello board. Y'all might remember that I've started to be a little bit better about organizing my life in general. And I've got a Trello board for React 101 for the stream here. I really should name it more than you asked for, because it's a little bit more than just this. But we are going to add GraphQL and GraphCool as BaaS. Rewrite everything in Rust, he says. I'd have to first learn Rust, and I don't know how good I would be at that. We're gonna move this up to the top. It seems pretty important. Let's see. Hashtag Rust. Oh yeah, sorry. The second beverage of choice for Kyle in life is Diet Mountain Dew. You can make fun of me for it being diet, but I can't handle the high fructose corn syrup. And the way I look at it, I'm making a trade-off between either diabetes or brain cancer. And you can beat cancer, but diabetes is forever. So fuck high fructose corn syrup. Just saying. But I've got my uppers, and I already have my downer ready to go when I finish this. Let's see some other things. I didn't mean to just side note. You didn't put me in no position, man. It's good to note that stuff. That's why I have you people in the chat. You're helping me make this better for you. Let's see. Ahi, just testing. Yes, we will get to just testing. I could do some of it with what we have in the app already. And let's see. Rust is the new thing. Everyone's doing it. Yeah, it's definitely a hotness. So is WASM, WebAssembly and all that. King Darrow says, Trello's cool, but a text or markdown file is usually good enough for me. It would be if I was always on my computer, but putting Trello on my phone has helped too. Because in the winter, I commute to work on the bus. And so, I don't have much to do on the bus. It's too crowded to really use my laptop. And so having my phone able to do stuff makes a big difference. Okay. We have already kind of taken that snippet. We started to install stuff. Sorry about that. I keep forgetting that I kind of have this in a different setup. We need to add .env and .env webpack. Yarn add .env webpack. And these are dev dependencies. Kevin says Mountain Dew is life. Sadly, until it kills you, right? Like, I know where I got it. I got it because my dad drank it my whole life, and I don't know, got me hooked at a young age, and I've never been able to break it. The problem for me is like no replacement is as cheap. Soda's cheap. That's where they get you. So I don't know. I've tried a bunch of other things, but I think I'm gonna end up drinking it until a doctor tells me I'm gonna die from it. So it is what it is. Okay, we've added the packages we need. Now we need to start kind of adding together the things. Oh, I'm catching it. Doji Style is now following. Sweet deal. Thank you, Doji Style. I appreciate it. Yeah. Let's keep building some stuff. What do I have up here? What on earth? You do not need to see that. Not that it's a big deal. You just don't need to see it, right? Okay. Let's write some code. It's only been 37 minutes and I haven't written any code. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to make a new file here. And we're just going to call it firebase.js. And we're going to import Firebase from Firebase. I think that's what we're going to do. I'm going to double check my notes over here. Firebase juice. Yep, that looks good. And then you might have seen. I'm gonna paste what we had before. You see these things here. So you wouldn't want to save these in your. You wouldn't want to save, like, especially this. You wouldn't want to save it in the source controlled part of your application. So we're going to set up the other parts that we were talking about too. So you want it at your root level, but you are going to put an env file in here. I'm going to double check that it's meant to be at root. Yeah, you put it at root. So what we're going to do is we'll make a new file at the talk planner level, and we're just going to call it env. This is an environment file. What you would do if you were on a team and you needed to share some environments across your team is you might have a location where people can get these keys and manually add them on their machine, but they would never be in source control so that they never get added to the Git, so people can't see them if it accidentally goes public or something like that. And what we're going to do is I'm going to actually split pane this real quick. We're going to have this over here and we have this over here, and just to make it a little better, I'm going to do that. But what we're going to do is we're going to make like Firebase. The first one will be API key, and we can, all of these are strings. So we will store a key there. If you wanted to really do them all, we can do them all. And this might be important if your app maybe had different backends for different environments too. Like if you're doing something for dev versus staging versus prod or something like that. But what we're going to do is we're going to set these all up. I'm sorry if it's a little slow. I'm not always the best at doing fast copy paste stuff. I'm working on it. I'll get better. But what you do is with this file, we add all the sensitive things in it, right? And then we're going to tell Webpack how to retrieve these sensitive, the sensitive information and add it to our bundle. Now, to be fair, without some real shenanigans, your stuff is always going to be in your bundle. Like, people can find it. That's just how Client.js is kind of worked. Eventually it all get bundles, right? So the other way to do it would maybe be like, I don't know, something like some kind of encryption or something like a JSON web token or something where you hide it and you obfuscate it in some way. But at least this way means you don't put it directly out there in the open for people to find. That's kind of what we're doing here. I'm showing you how to do that with your application. So storage buckets are like if I need to store any like images, or it's like an AWS bucket. And then you can actually have these do like push notifications and stuff. That's what this ID is. Okay, so now we have those, right? Like, we actually don't need this. The SDK is handling that for us. We don't need this because we're not injecting it directly into an HTML page. And we can do something like this. Now that we have those env things, what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to replace this string with process.env.firebase API key. And so what will happen is Webpack will inject any environment variables we put in our env file into our bundle, and they will be available to be used by our application. This is how we handle those that separation and that obfuscation. There's a whole bunch of stuff in the chat, so give me a second to catch up. Lucas Frosty just got here on the stream. Kind of lost. You're going to start to use the new Firestore DB, not the new one. Lucas Frosty, let me teach you something. We now have commands in the chat. What you doing? We'll tell you what I'm doing. We're just learning how to connect Firebase to a React application, and I'm also showing people how to use an env file in the process. And Dodorino, I started learning JavaScript today, and one of the reasons is because I love watching this programming streams, and I would love to understand it better. Do you have some tips for learning JS? Thank you for sharing your work. Yeah, I've definitely got tips. Patience. I don't mean that as a joke. It really does require patience, but also there's lots of good material out there. Maybe starting with the Eloquent JavaScript could be useful. I think you can find that free. You can also find You Don't Know JS. That helps. There's a free series of books by Kyle Simpson on JavaScript for that. Man, there's just so many resources out there. You are in a great time to go learn. So just ask me. Rewrite Lodash. That'll confuse. I mean, yes, it's great, but that'll confuse him if it's first. Cyber Weapons asks, "Hey, what's your equipment?" We have one. I can make this a little bit better, but Editor will tell you at least what my editor is. If you go to my actual Twitch channel, Cyber Weapons, you can see it under gear and tells you what's going on. For those wondering, 13-inch MacBook Pro, early 2015, Behringer B1 mic, a Logitech HD C920 camera, OBS software, and some Streamlabs stuff to get this stream working right. Let's see. Thank you for doing this. Oh, yeah, okay. Do you come from a programming background? No, I don't. My background, are you asking him or are you asking me? I don't. My background was, I was a pastor before I taught myself how to write code. I definitely need to work on writing that blog post because everyone's asking me about it. But shameless plug here, I just started my podcast like a month ago. We've got 3 episodes, but you can go to secondcareerdevs.com and check it out. I definitely need to add the podcast, right? Like, but anyways, secondcareerdevs.com. Y'all need to go check it out. We've got a bunch of episodes up. Lots planned in 2018. Some really big names. Some people like maybe Ryan Florence, maybe Ken Wheeler, maybe Sarah Drasner. We're gonna get some cool people up there. Because lots of people got into programming without it being like their first thing. It's really kind of cool. Okay, yeah. So, all right, back to the code. I need to wire these all up. Sweet. I love it that y'all are helping each other out. I think that's great, and I'm really glad to do it. Lucas Frosty asked, does this work for Create React app, or do I need to inject and configure Webpack to do it? You probably will have to eject. I don't know off the top of my head what all is in CRA. So I can't answer that confidently. That being said, every time I use CRA, I eject pretty much immediately because that's who I am. I like having control over my application. So, call me weird, but that's who I am. Oh, there's probably a fast way to do this, but you know what? We'll just do this. Oh, come on. Why isn't my Alt key working? Huh. Oh, that's why. It's not Alt for that. Alt is when I want to drag multiple cursors. Not when I want to write like a specific one. What is this? Storage bucket. And what is this one? This one is messaging sender ID. That is way too big for me to write. I'm too lazy for that. But okay. So now we have that. We'll need to actually export Firebase. But we need to do a couple more things. We'll need to set up env to be used by Webpack. We talked about that. We also need to export things like the database. We'll export some authentication stuff so that we can do that. All right, catching up on the chat. I use custom React scripts with CRA that allows env. Create React app supports adding things to env. Nice. Cool, there you go. So you can do some of this without having to do the steps I'm doing, but if you're ever in a situation where someone hasn't set that up for you, or like the app isn't doing it for you, this is how you do it. Let's set up the Webpack real quick. What we're going to do is we're going to pull in, I'm looking at my notes here. We're just going to pull in .env first. It's actually pretty easy to set up. So we pull in the plugin, right? We could probably call it a plugin. And then in our plugin section here, what we're going to do is we're going to add a new plugin here with new .env plugin. And this just takes a configuration object. And all we're going to tell it is the path, which happens to be the root of our application. .env, and we're gonna pull it safe to false. I believe safe does some obfuscation of your keys in your bundle or something like that. I'm not sure how, but I don't actually care at the moment. And I always tell people to look up the documentation themselves. Like, I'll do my best to explain things as clearly as possible, but you shouldn't rely on me to be a 100% perfect source of truth. Always take the time to look up documentation yourself. That's just good practice. Like, you know, for example, if you're at work and you're just following what someone else has done for you and you screw up, like, there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to pass that buck on to someone else and be like, well, they told me to do it. You know, like, people expect you to be responsible. So, fortunately or unfortunately, I expect you to be responsible as well. So I'm doing my best to give you 100% correct information, but please go verify for yourself. Just what I'm saying. Cool. I'm checking the chat. It looks like it's mostly to y'all, so that's great. But what this should do is this should get the .env file and inject the stuff in. We have it saved. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna restart Webpack here. No one will hold you responsible if you get lost in Webpack documentation. I don't find it that bad. They made it so much better once they made version 2. Version 1 is kind of rough, but the new website was really good. And I know. Sean has been like streaming like every single night. The man's crazy. He's a good man though. He's cool. Yeah, they're buckling down trying to get Webpack 4 out. Like, I guess they're in the alpha. I don't know if they're to an RC yet, but they're getting there. Which is pretty cool. I've barely even used like Webpack 3. I might be using it in this. Let's see. Webpack 3. Yeah, I'm using Webpack 3. So, cool. It's almost 9 o'clock, and I've almost got it going. We'll get there. All right. So we have our env file, right? We have this. This has our sensitive data. We don't put this into version controls, so you also want to make sure you either have it set globally in your git ignore, or you have it set here in the applications git ignore file. So we'll ignore that. We definitely don't want to save that. Not that I'm doing any version control right now on this app. I probably should, but I'm not. Only because I'm just doing it for the stream. I don't nothing like that. But so we have our env variables. We're ignoring it. We've put it into our Webpack bundle, and then in Firebase, in this file, we are exporting Firebase with the initialization. That's great. We want some of the other features Firebase has for us in this app. We're going to want the database. So down here, what we're going to do is we're going to export a const of database equals Firebase.database. We're going to fire the method. Stop spamming your channel. Don't worry about it. As long as y'all are having fun and you're enjoying the stream, that's fine by me. I did add one moderator. She's not here tonight, but I've added a mod with Knit Code Monkey. Jen, you might know her, Jen Luker. She has been really supportive of my stream since day one, and I'm really thankful for her participation in this and her supportiveness. And so I thought it made sense to do that. As the stream goes on, some of you may become mods for me. I don't know. To be fair, most people, there hasn't really been anyone to need any moderation, and I really appreciate that. I want to thank you for your behavior and honestly your curiosity and your questions. Everyone's been really cool so far, and I hope we can continue to become a cool and bigger community in 2018. Y'all need to help me make this bigger. I don't know how. I mean, but as this gets bigger and better, I think it's just going to be fun. Like, it's going to be better to have more people in it. There's a couple other things I'm going to do here. I'm going to add some authentication, and we can do that in here too. We'll just export auth as firebase.auth. I missed the trollbot. I only missed the trollbot because I learned how to do the ban command, and I want to drop the ban hammer. Boom! Like Thor, like Mjolnir. And then let's just use Google for this. It's the easiest one to set up for this because it comes automatically baked in anytime you make a Firebase app. It allows you to sign in with Google really well. Great guy attracts great viewers. Y'all are really great viewers. I'm just saying, like, you are top-notch viewers. Like fuck those other channels. You're the awesome viewers. You are the best. You are all 100s across the board here. Let's see if this works. Did I tell y'all I have an emoji like Alfred integration? It's really nice. Y'all are hundreds. 500s. Y'all are 500s. Okay, I'm gonna make the Google Auth provider, and we're gonna pass that out. That's also a method off of auth. Okay, that's all I'm going to do for right now. I'll show you maybe how to set up the other ones at some other point, but they mostly involve running like you have to actually set up an app on Twitter, on Facebook, on what other ones? Those are the other two I have in my notes. So you actually have to go through their whole, like, get an API key and add it in here and that kind of stuff. Cool. So now I have a Firebase instance initialized. I have the Firebase exported. I'm going to look for where I have Firebase imported in my other app just to kind of remember where I have it. I actually don't have it imported anywhere. It's kind of interesting. But I do have the database imported. Come on, import database. I know you guys like it when I sing on the channel. My voice has actually gone down a few notes in the last few years, so I'm starting to hit some nice bassy notes that I couldn't used to hit before. Looks like I'm pulling the database into actions, and that makes sense because that's where I would probably want to, like, do some asynchronous, like, update our database or retrieve data from the database, that kind of thing. So we'll get to that when we get to it. And let's see, where do I import the Google Auth provider? Do I have this as case sensitive? Why can't I find it? Ah, there it is. There it is. Okay. Yeah, why don't we try and do some authentication in this app? Let's try and get that to work. So, let's see. we're gonna open that and we're gonna see, do I even have, I think I have it running. So did you see how easy that was? I know it took a long time getting there, but literally I hit one button on Firebase and I can actually, like, I can already start to see the database there. It can have authentication, get started. There's going to be nothing here in the database, but like literally I hit one thing, I got all the variables I needed, and boom, I was ready to go. It took a little bit of setup in the actual app itself, but this is already connected. We'll be able to make updates to this soon enough. So let's do this. Let's do two things tonight. Let's try and get them done. I'm going to add one thing that'll let us write stuff to the database, and then I will add something that'll add authentication to the database. Not to the database, authentication to the app. They're kind of two separate things with Firebase. All of this stuff here, like eventually I'll have it so that it writes to Firebase, but I'm just going to make a throwaway component to show you what it takes to like store stuff into the database and to get it out. And in fact, I don't even think I'll hook it up to Redux and that kind of stuff. I will just put it straight to the database. So let's do that. Let's make a component, and we'll just make a simple form. Simple form.jsx, and we'll import React and a component, and I still need to update my snippets. I think it's because I don't actually like use my, I use my home computer a lot, but I don't know. I don't know why I'm so lazy about it. I'm not spending every night writing React, right? Like a lot of times I'm learning or doing research, or I'm doing other things like this. This is actually probably when I write the most React actually anymore. Maybe someday I'll get a job again writing React and I'll get to write it all the time. Y'all have gotten really quiet. I just want to make sure maybe y'all are really paying attention to me. But it's been, I want to make sure things didn't like break or anything like that. Simple form extends component. Might help if I spelled component correctly, right? Yay, y'all are still here. It's always weird when that happens, right? Like, it's weird to me, at least. We'll render a form. Oh, we need to return. We'll make a form. Why did it do from? I definitely typed form. It's this. I'm making that grunt because what it is Emmett is hopping in there and trying to, it's not hopping in there. Something else is saying like you want the JavaScript from, and it's doing an auto tab complete for it. Ahi, you're not terrible. Okay, I have ice cream. I have ice cream waiting for me too when I'm done with this. Whoops. Party foul. Party foul, people. Not cool. We should have a party foul command in the chat, right? No, I totally get it. It's good to know that some of you are just listening. That makes me feel like I must do a good job of talking, that this is worth putting in the background and listening to. So that's cool by me. Let's do an input type equals submit. Why did that just jump? And we'll do submit. Oh, let's do a button. Button type equals submit. And then we don't have to do anything. And then we'll just add a single input. Value equals this state dot name. We'll just call it a name. Name equals name. And on change equals, we'll give it a function. We'll just this dot handle change. Get rid of that white space. It's super annoying. This will be this dot handle submit. This is all boilerplate stuff. Honestly, like I should just eventually find a library that I don't have to do this, but you know what's going on. We will do handle submit equals e and we will e.prevent default. We definitely don't want the server trying to do anything. And then this is where we'll do our database stuff. I'll have to look that up real quick. Handle change here is what it is this dot set state is I always love this trick. e.target.name e.target.value. Such a awesome generic way to do this. And then state equals name, and we'll start it with an empty string. And then we need to export it. Export default simple form. I think that should be enough to kind of do something with it. We'll put it in our app somewhere. Import simple form. Might help if I spelled it right, from simple form. Okay, and then I am going to comment this stuff out so you don't see it. And then we'll just add the simple form. Yeah, Ahi's asking, can you destructure target name and value? You totally could, if you really want to. We could give that a try here. We can get the target, and then off of that we can get name and value, and then from here you should be able to do that. I don't see why that wouldn't work. That should work. Do you actually use tab for autocomplete? I do use tab for autocomplete. I set it so only tab does autocomplete, so enter doesn't accidentally do it. What I really need to do is I need to go through my can't think. I need to go through my my auto completions. I have a few in there that are from a package that are kind of annoying, and I need to rip them out. I need to find out which ones. King Daro says, I don't like destructuring any deeper than the top level. Personally, it becomes a little harder to follow then. I think on that I would just tell people to each their own. If that's what makes you feel comfortable, then I think that's the right move, right? This doesn't bother me too much. A lot of times I'd like to do this on multiple lines. There's no way Prettier is going to let me do it, but like I would actually, I might do something like this. I think when you have lots of destructuring, it can be a little easier to read when it's like that, to understand what you're doing. It almost looks like a GraphQL query in a way to me. I don't know. I think Prettier will fix that for me. It will. But yeah, I can totally see that. And honestly, I think the thing here for me is, like, if I needed the target for other things, like I actually needed the target itself, I would never go deeper than that. A lot of times I don't. A lot of times I won't destructure deeper than necessary. Like, I guess what I'm saying is, like, you could actually do this, right? Target, and then the second level of destructuring. And it's kind of weird. It sucks to have to, like, save off a variable like that. I kind of wish destructuring like this gave you target, name, and value. I wish it gave you all three, but it doesn't. It only gives you name and value. It only gives you that lowest level. But those are things to keep in mind when you're doing stuff like this. All right, so I have a simple form component. I want to make sure that it's working. It looks like I'm getting state updates. I'm going to pop open the React Dev Tools. I'm getting all sorts of things yelling at me, which is why hot module reloading isn't working. And that happens. Like my HMR won't work if I have linting errors. But let's drill down into simple form, and we should be able to see the state update, and we do. Cool. Okay, so now what we're going to want to do is I'm going to pull up, I have a file over here. And I'm going to see if I can remember how to do this. That's fetch. That's update. Did I not add this? Hold on. I had to put it somewhere. I didn't put it anywhere. That's interesting. All right, so we might have to look at some docs to figure this out, people. But we can do it. We can totally do it. Honestly, I don't know that any of y'all struggle with this, but you know, I think we all deal with imposter syndrome from time to time, right? And sometimes I don't even like calling it imposter syndrome. Like, I don't feel like an imposter just because I don't know how to do something. All I feel is temporarily stupid. And I say the key word there is temporarily. Like, the point of this career isn't to have all the answers. The point of this career is to be able to find answers and to be able to work through challenging problems piece by piece by piece. You know, if I don't happen to remember something about what I'm doing, that's not a big deal. Like, don't let yourself get stuck on it. Don't feel like shit. It's just, you know, you're like, if you need to look up docs, you look up docs. It's no big deal, right? So, like, what I'm doing here is I'm gonna look at database. That's what we're gonna pull into our component here, and then the ref, I think, is how we set things, if I remember. Returns a ref. I'm trying to remember how you write. We actually have to, I think we have to enable writing to begin with. So ref probably has the methods we're looking for. Where is it? Key, ref, child, off, on, once, push. I think that's probably what we need. Push or set. One of those. Push. Generates a new child location using a unique key. Okay. Let's go with set. Writes data to this database location. Cool. Okay. Default security requires users to be authenticated. Okay. So what we're going to do, this is we're going to rewrite our rules here so that anybody can read and write to our databases at the moment. Right now, it's saying you have to be authenticated. So what I'm going to change is this to true. And I'm going to change this to true. So anyone can read and write to our database. They don't need to be authenticated. That's not great for your app. And authentication is pretty simple to set up. But we're going to publish those changes. And that should enable anyone to write to our database. So what we're going to do then is, and we can actually see things like, let's do like foo bar. If we wanted to, I could get the database and display it in a component. And why don't we do that from here? We're going to import database from Firebase. And then what I'm going to do is on component did mount, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the snapshot, the database snapshot, and maybe set it to state. This isn't where I'd put this. I'm just doing it for the sake of just showing you kind of the so value isn't something I've done. That's just a key in Firebase that you use, and then we're going to it's going to return it looks like a snapshot. It's gonna, oh, okay, that's what we're gonna do. We'll call the set state in the callback. So we're going to call for the snapshot of our database, and then what we're going to do is we're going to set this dot set state data to the snapshot val. And then what that should do is we'll just here for the shits and giggles. I've already set foo bar in there, right? So what we'll do is this dot state dot data. If we have it, then this dot state dot data dot foo, I think will work. Otherwise, null. And I can start taking some stuff out. Const data and name this dot state. In fact, I don't even need that. That should work. Okay. Oops, sorry folks. Jumping around the wrong screens. Habits are hard to find. Looks like I have a mistake. So let's see what data is. That's okay. Looks like I have a bunch of issues. It's okay. I have an exception there, so let's fix that. It doesn't like that. It's probably because this isn't JSX. It's just, I can just do this. I don't need the extra line. That should work. Let's see if that gets fixed. All right, cool. Sweet. So you can see here, you can see bar. What's happening here is we've just quickly made a... on component did mount, we fire up the database and we get our database's value back as a snapshot, and we store it in state. It's not something we actually need in this component. We'll use it in another component, but I just wanted to show you how we've already written stuff to the database. So it's just it's good to see there. I really should have pulled up a different app that I used Firebase a whole lot more on to show you, but I think that also means then we can do database. You know what? I'm just going to do that. It doesn't do me any good not to have my notes with me to actually do this well. So I'm going to cd feed me. Is it here? Maybe it's not. It might be in my work directory. Yeah. We're going to find a place where I actually write to the database. Yeah, there we go. There's a good example. Cool. So in order to write to the database, what we're going to do is we're going to make a ref called name. And what this will do is this will create a new... it'll create a new place here called name, and then what we will do is we'll call a set, and we will pass this dot state dot name. And what we can do is if we really wanted to keep this up to date, we could on component did mount, retrieve the name from the database, set state with that name so that that name is available. There's been a lot of chat, sorry. Let me catch up. Imposter syndrome is the worst. It sure is. JavaScript itself is a universe. You just can't know everything about it. That's totally true unless you're like Axel Rauschmeyer and you have a doctorate in it. Just yesterday I learned about document.all, which is an array. But using type of yields undefined, and I'm just like, what? I'm also still mad about how math.round null is 0, but math.round undefined is not a number. JS, please. JavaScript does have a lot of quirks. I feel very thankful that most days I don't I don't hit those quirks. So, but it's definitely an interesting landscape for sure. Pounded that. Got it done. Put that over there. All right. So what we're going to see here is, I think if I have this right, let's make sure I have this right. Oh, looks like set needs to be an object. I wonder why set needs to be an object. Oh, it doesn't have to. Interesting. Oh, okay, I see what's going on. No, I should be able to, let's give this a try. I think this will work. So let's restart this. I should go fix those errors so this will reload. But what we're going to do is I'll put in my name. Let me bump that up for you so you can see. We're going to put my name. We're going to hit submit. And we won't really see anything happen. But if we come back to our database right here, you can see name has been updated. So what I'm going to do is let's make a name component that just displays the name. It gets it and displays it. All right, new file, name.jsx, import react from component. Component. I can spell, did mount. Let's fetch from the database. We'll have to import the database. On value, snapshot. I guess we'll need to store some state. State equals name. So we're basically setting up what we did before. Snap.val.name. Should be able to do that just to get the name. Render return this.state.name.length is greater than 0. Return this.state.name or null. This should display it. I'm curious if this will actually update when I update. I feel like I need to remember something with the. Don't you just hate how one's ability to type decreases exponentially with the number of people watching you do it? I think that's probably about as accurate as my normal typing is. And actually, my audience is cut in half since about 40, maybe 30 minutes ago. I think y'all enjoyed it when I was talking more. Plus, East Coast people are probably heading to bed. That happens. It's one of the downsides of having to stream on the East Coast. I mean, not the East. I'm on the West. On the West Coast because I just don't have time earlier in the day generally to even get to my computer this early. Between making dinner and, just spending time with my wife, which is really important. She totally deserves it, right? She deserves my best time. And this is really for fun. So, like, if it came down to it, like, I'd have to cancel a stream. I totally would. It's just the right thing to do. But yeah, I can't get on till late, which means like people on the East Coast only catch the first 30 minutes or so. And so really all they get is an update of my week and my shenanigans. They don't get to see a lot of the code, but I hope they come back and they watch it on the repeats or on the on YouTube. I do upload these videos to YouTube. So there's that. I keep doing it. Son of a bitch. Sorry guys and gals. I'm so used to swiping around to get to things. Okay. Unexpected var, use let or const instead in fire. Oh, that's interesting. As name is defined but never used. Oh, what did I screw up? Y'all are supposed to catch this for me. Const name equals this dot state. Let's pull that out. Name.length is greater than 0. Show the name, otherwise return nothing. I think that's legit, right? Makes sense to me. King Daro's like, right, there should be a name for that. I think it's called nerves. Fear. Apprehension. I don't know. Okay. So I have that. I should just go fix these. I really hate when my my linter breaks because I'm just skipping stuff. That arrow function looks wrong. Alright, well, what we're going to do is this. We're going to do this so it stops yelling at me. Firebase. I need to set up my... I don't know why ESLint isn't firing in my editor. ESLint, do I have it turned on or turned off? That's not helpful at all. Enable lint. Oh, look at that. Hold on. Enable linter. Enable. Did I enable it? It looks like I did. Yeah, I must have. Okay. Where else do I... Shit, I've done it so many times. I swipe over to my screen and it's not there. The one with the Firebase ref thing doesn't look wrong. Good to know. Name. Looks like I have some issues in name. Yeah. That would make sense. I'm not calling this .set state. Makes a lot of sense. Good call, King Daro. Why are you yelling at me? Okay. React is defined. Really? Oh, it's never used because there's no JSX in it. That is really interesting. H2. We'll add some JSX and then it'll shut up. I like the little cheering guys, King Daro. That's awesome. What are you talking about? I expected a are you saying expected a comma? It's a class. There's no... I didn't close this out. There we go. That should shut up, right? Why aren't you... Oh, thank God. My linter's just being annoying. All right. I think I fixed all the linting errors. I did. Name is showing. I didn't make it a JSX expression. Serves me right. I think we finally got it, folks. Should be blank. Okay. Kyle. That's in the database. Let's change it to say David. See how it updates automatically? I think that's so cool. Firebase has basically it does like, I don't know how best, but like live updating more or less. So like I can put King Daro. He's chatting the most. This is what's really cool about Firebase is that like as soon as we set up, it's listening to that endpoint in the database. Every time it updates, it'll update the props in our component. Finnell says, any suggestions on how much Vanilla.js to know before playing with React? Okay, so that's a really great question. I think, you know what? Let me switch to fancy monologue mode. I have hotkeys for this now. Now I'm really excited. I'm gonna get better at being able to switch really quick. This is what I would say. It would be really helpful for you to understand most of ES6, especially arrow functions. They're used all over the place in React. Excuse me. It would be helpful for you to understand classes, since class components are the typical building structure of React apps. Yes, there are stateless functional components, but those are relatively small to understand. It's the classes you need to understand. And what you really need to understand about the classes is how binding of class methods work. You want to bind methods to the instance of that class. And so that's normally done in a constructor, or you might see what I'm doing today, you'll eventually learn is a Babel transform called transform class properties that allows us to do some auto binding of methods to instances. It allows us to avoid having to bind this all the time. And so those are things I would want to understand. Other things you'd really need to understand are things like how well do you know array methods and object methods? But that's just basic JavaScript in general. You need, like, if you really want to get good at writing quality JavaScript applications, those are the kind of things you're going to need to know regardless of what framework you're using, because most of what we do is we receive data, we manipulate data, and we display data. And data pretty much always comes to us in the forms of arrays and objects. And so the more comfortable you are manipulating those things, knowing the methods off the top of your head and that kind of thing, the faster and better you will be. If you already know other programming languages, I think Kevin's saying something like that, and you know a little JavaScript, React is going to be pretty easy to pick up. The API is very small. It's one of my favorite things about it, is that it's small enough to pretty much keep entirely in your own head, which is fantastic. That being said, I think you can also learn JavaScript by writing React, because React uses JavaScript entirely. Other JavaScript frameworks, as silly as it sounds, don't use JavaScript all over the place. I'm thinking like Ember, their templating language is HTML bars, which means you set up some things in your component's JavaScript file and they're mapped to things in the template file, but you're not actually writing JavaScript to write your template. Whereas what you saw here, like if we look at the code, like here, this is actually quite a bit of JavaScript in just a few lines. Look at this. In the render method, I am destructuring name off of this state. I'm also going to return, and I'm using a ternary. A ternary is a a short form of an if-else statement. If this expression evaluates to true, evaluate and run this expression. Otherwise, move on and run this one. So what I'm saying here is name.length. You'd have to know that strings have a length property, right? So I'm saying if the length of name is greater than 0, I want you to display it. Otherwise, return null. So I didn't say you couldn't save a blank name, just to show you. I'm going to hit submit with this empty, and the component disappears. And we can actually look at our database. We haven't done that yet, but look, it's updating here too, right? Now, if I update the name with, say, Shevlin, my last name, the length is greater than 0, it's going to render that component. I think that's pretty fascinating stuff, that that you can have so much JavaScript in just a few lines of code. Like, we could write this out in a much longer way. It wouldn't nearly be as neat, but... Oh, I'm still in monologue mode. Thank you, Kevin. Hotkey. We gotta hotkey this. Alright, we've hotkeyed it back down. Let me re-explain. I feel like an idiot, but let me re-explain. In this little part of the code, there's a lot going on. We're destructuring a key off the state object, which is bound to this instance. It is this instance of name. If I had another version of name, it would be bound to a different instance. Um, in this line here, we're using a ternary, which is a short like if-else statement, and we're evaluating this expression. If it evaluates to true, we show the first half. If it evaluates to false, we run the second half. And what you can see when we actually do this is I can submit like a string of no length, right? And then the component renders null. There's no component. If you look in this tree, you should see a name, but it doesn't have anything in it, right? Like the inner contents of the name component is null. But if I change it to, hey, beard fade, that's my my gamer tag. If you ever see me on Xbox, if beard fade renders, like now we see the component. And what I was just trying to say is like this is just normal JavaScript. This here is ES6, but like, you can pack a lot of JavaScript in a very small amount of React. And this is actually our template, right? Like our template has view logic it's just JavaScript. And that's what I mean by like React can teach you how to write JavaScript, because you'll be writing everything in JavaScript. You'll never leave the language. Finel says, okay, makes sense. Thank you. Coming from a Python background mostly used for scripting and data analysis, really appreciate you taking the time to speak to my question. Of course. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for a little education about React. I really hope people are gathering things. I gather from the kinds of people I have watching that I have really smart people watching who a lot of times could probably figure most of this out, but I'm here to answer your questions, and that's what makes this worthwhile for me. I just wanted to say, I notice you jacks up there. Linters help you with consistent coding style. Linters catch code smells. So prettier is what I use for code style. So once my JavaScript is in a functioning, like it's non-broken, it's functioning, prettier will do the style for me. But ESLint is mostly for things like code smells. Like if you have things you don't like to do, like maybe for whatever reason you want no ternaries in your application, you can write an ESLint rule that will say, if you see a ternary, throw a warning, don't let it be built. Or there's other ones, like you can have linters to do things like no ifs without elses, or early returns. Like what are they? They're called guard clauses. Like you should early return if you can. Those kinds of things. So I kind of personally believe ESLint and Prettier kind of can coexist and work next to each other without being they work well together. For some people though, you can totally set up ESLint to do all your style things too. That's really up to personal preference. I love the formatting that I love that Prettier just does it on save. It's done. I don't have to write some weird script to make ESLint run fix on save. So yeah, Lucas Frosty is suggesting to use the Airbnb style guides if you're just getting started. That's what I'm using here. They're very strict. They will teach you a lot, or at least give you a lot of suggestions. They will not give you they won't give you a lot of freedom, which might be a really good thing. Capsize TV says, best resources to get into professional web dev. Give me a second to wet the palate. So, best resources to get into professional web dev. I don't think there's any magic pill. I'm just going to start there. There's no magic pill. It comes down to a couple things, I think. One, the bar keeps getting raised higher. What I needed to know to start my career was less than what you probably need to know to start your career. As boot camps proliferate and more people join the field, the market doesn't have the capacity to take the same level of entry-level, junior-level people. So the bar is getting raised. And I just say that so that it's known and that you can prepare yourself to work the work how as hard as you need to get to where you need to go. That being said, I think a couple things you can really focus on are things like work on your discipline. Like the easiest way to get better at this is to do it every day. When I first started learning how to code, I didn't really have any full-time jobs. I was just working a smattering of part-time jobs while in grad school, trying to find full-time work, and I couldn't. And what I did to learn coding is every morning I got up, I made a French press full of coffee, and I sat down at my computer and I coded while that coffee was still there. So maybe a couple hours or so. But I did it every single day, weekday, weekend, etc. I did it for about a year and a half before I got my first job. Now, granted, I wasn't looking. It was just something I was doing because it felt like a great skill to be adding. And eventually I realized like this skill could pay off. And I was looking for maybe 2-3 months when I landed my first job. But the bar was lower, but the discipline is the same. I still to this day, like, that's my ritual in the morning. Maybe not a French press, but like, I get my coffee, get out of my way, I'm ready to code, I'm ready to make shit. The other thing is like your ability to network is going to be really important. Like you want to start building things as often as you can, and then just being willing to be comfortable talking about what you're building and what you're learning. You're never going to know everything. Your entire career, you're going to constantly be learning. You're going to constantly run up against I call it the edges of your own intelligence. You run against these limits, right? You need to get comfortable with that feeling. A lot of people aren't, but you need to be comfortable with it. If you're going to make it in this career, you need to be comfortable with feeling inadequate at times, because you'll push through that and you'll always learn that, like, give it enough time, you'll figure it out. That's the kind of attitude it takes to do programming. It's one who doesn't easily get discouraged, one who knows how to ask for help at the right times, one who knows how to break problems down into small enough pieces that they can actually be handled and tackled, and that's how it works. So if you have experience outside of tech, though, that can be really helpful too. Shameless plug again, secondcareerdevs.com. I run a podcast for people who learned how to transition from one career to another, and like how they changed their lives about it, because I did it. I'm going to catch up on the chat real quick. Kevin says uses standard JS. I love standard. I really actually do. Standard has some issues, I think, with flow, if I remember right. So that's why I switched to Airbnb, is to start using flow typing. I could be wrong. Maybe everything's worked out now. But I love standard. It's what got me to stop using semicolons. I'm going to say it because I do, but fuck semicolons. I hate them. But yeah, I'll have to add that command, Kevin. I see that. Lucas, thank you for posting the developer roadmap. That's an excellent resource. And Kevin's saying soft skills are a tiebreaker. Lucas is like, I hate standard. So, Lucas, do you know that there's semi-standard? It's literally standard, but the semicolons are added back in. King Darrow's just like, what is that? What is that face? J Spec says, I interview programmers for my company. Soft skills are more than just a tiebreaker. Something else you should know about me, if you didn't, is I'm kind of the de facto moderator over at Jobs Advice channel on Reactiflux. And we talk about this stuff all the time. You can hover over it to see. It's the lull. Okay. Finnell, can you speak a little about the times when semicolons are required in JS? I'm not welcome to the Twitch world anymore. Oh no. Well, you know, good thing I did this for fun and not because I'm a hardcore Twitch person thing. But it's good to know. I'm learning now. Okay. So, yes, there are 3 scenarios where semicolons... I think there's 4 scenarios, is how I would put it, where semicolons are absolutely necessary. And I hope this is okay to talk about. I know we've kind of gotten off of the Firebase track. King Darrow is actually mentioning a few right now. There's this thing in JavaScript called automatic semicolon insertion. You'll often see it abbreviated to ASI. I'll put that in here, ASI. Automatic semicolon insertion. So what happens is the basically the VM, the machine that's going to run our code, that's going to handle it, will actually go in and add semicolons wherever it's necessary. And there's just a few times where it'll break. So why people argue not to use semicolons, such as myself, is that it's hard to remember all the places you actually need it. It's much easier to remember the places I should say, I think a good way to put this is, like, if you want to use semicolons, you have to figure out all the places you have to put them, because you can put them in a lot of wrong places. If you never put semicolons, you let the engine do it, then there's only a few things you need to worry about. If for some reason I were going to start a line with an array like 1, 2, 3, and do something with it, this would break. You need to put a semicolon in front of it. It's kind of weird, but you do. The same thing goes for if you're starting a line with an expression, and I think the same thing goes if you're starting a line with an object literal. The only other place you need a semicolon, and this is the one that the only places I write semicolons anymore, is if I'm using a for loop. Like if I write something like for let I equals 0, because I'm doing a series of expressions in the same parentheses, or series of statements, I should say. I is less than, 10, I plus plus. Do stuff. This is literally the only place I ever put semicolons in my JavaScript anymore. And here's the thing. I hardly ever use for loops anymore. Like, I just don't need to. When I could do something like array of 10, this is kind of a weird trick, and sometimes I just make a utility that does this, or for each. Or I don't even need to fill it. I think I can just do for each. And then I can run a callback in here, and this will happen 10 times. Like, a lot of times you can... there's just so many ways to use arrays and array methods these days that you don't even need to use for loops. So those are the times you need to use semicolons. Don't worry about detouring my topics. I detour myself. I'm totally like squirrel, and just off on some other thing. No big deal. JSpec, I code in C# for my back end and JS, TS really, for the front end. Don't make my brain switch back and forth. That's pretty much the best reason to use them. Perfectly valid. The preference doesn't matter as much as the consistency. I just don't like extra characters. Like, my brain literally sees them as waste. So that's me. I don't argue with anybody if they like using semicolons. Just don't make me write them. If we need them, like if we're working together, that's why I love Prettier. Prettier can be set up to make it work. I can write whatever code I want. You can run Prettier before my commit, or Prettier before like on save, and with your config, and it's done. I don't have to think about it. Capsize asks, do you participate in the Oregon 420 extracurriculars? Opinions on Bud in the software programming industry? I do not. I have literally never smoked anything in my life, weed or cigarettes or otherwise. Both my parents were heavy chain smokers. My mom still is to this day. In fact, I have a very vivid moment of the first time my dad quit smoking cold turkey. I was 10, and I remember having this crystallizing moment where I understood what the word asshole was. We're getting ready for school, he's being horrible to me, and I remember in my brain mentally pointing at him and being like, that's an asshole. That's what it is. So they smoked my whole life, and I hated it so much I never wanted to smoke, so I just never did. Now, I don't have anything against people who smoke marijuana or weed or anything like that, and in fact, to some degree, I'm interested, but at this point, I don't care. I'm in my mid-30s. It's just not a big deal to me. but I do think it should be legalized, and I really don't think it should be the crime it is. I think, without getting too much into my philosophy on the prison system and stuff, like I would love to see it legalized federally. We'll put it that way. As far as the software programming industry, the only thing I really know is I worked for a company where we built brand sites. Was my first company, and we built one for, I think we built like two or three for new marijuana companies or dispensaries here in Oregon. So that's the most I know. JSpec says, I work in consulting. Being able to communicate with the client is absolutely vital. Okay, yeah, y'all are just talking about soft skills, but that makes sense. Like if you, especially if your position is client facing, you need to have soft skills. Capsize, what are some good projects for a junior dev portfolio? I'd say make a brand site. Do that. Find a like a, I don't know, hell, if you want to do it about weed, go find one. Trying to think of the one. This one was actually really kind of fancy. Proof Cultivar. Like, this website is dope, if I remember it right. If I get the right website. I'm actually the one that told him that the long U had a line. They originally had an umlaut over it, and I was like, that would be Prof Cultivar. So I corrected them on it, and it ended up in their logo. But this, you could make something like this, man. This site is pretty cool. It's got all this, like, their kind of thing is like, it's sciencey, so hence the hexagons and stuff like that. This is kind of cool. If you look over here on the left side, the masking of the SVG over there. But yeah, this is something I worked on. You can totally make stuff like this. The only thing you need to think about is, like, who are you showing this portfolio to? If you're trying to show it to, like, app companies instead of agencies, like, maybe that won't do so much for you. I'm just saying. Vape Nation, smoke weed every day. I do love 2001, man, dope ass album. There's still some songs on there that I think just never got the respect they deserved. Just saying. And I do miss Nate Dogg, and his very smooth, his voice. It was really cool. JSpec is looking for junior devs right now, so I don't know where you're at, JSpec, but let me know. I'll try and send some people your way if you want them. Kevin's laughing that we're talking about dope. He'd recommend against Weed Project as centerpiece. Like I said, it's always you have to know your audience. New question number 3: should I learn to use jQuery in my own projects? I would say it's okay to learn jQuery if you're getting a junior job, because lots of junior jobs might be on maintenance and stuff, and like legacy sites. So and so, like, knowing something like jQuery can be really helpful when doing maintenance, because you're just using older tech. It won't hurt you to know it. That being said, it's not something that's as commonly used these days. jQuery's main reason for existing was doing cross-browser compatibility, and we just really don't have the same issues that we used to have. I mean, it does have other nice things, but with a lot of the modern JavaScript, and especially the modern JavaScript framework, there's much less need for like getting DOM selectors that way. In fact, in like React, we hardly ever actually touch the actual DOM nodes, and I think I've gone over refs, and if not, I can always go over them again to actually get to the DOM node and do some manipulation that way. But it's definitely not going to hurt you to know it. It's just, you should learn to use it. You should learn to use it, and then learn to work with it, but not be something that's like your go-to that you use in a website these days. Looks like King Daro gave a very nice answer as well. Kevin said, it's because I called the weed website dope. Yes, that was a bad pun. I didn't intend that. Ooh, I've got a kitty cat behind me now. You probably just saw the door fly open like a ghost opened it or something. I need to be careful. Tally likes to get right underneath my feet. And Hi there, girl. How you doing? You doing all right? Yeah. Did you come to join the stream? Oh, no, you're just hungry, aren't you? Tally's always hungry. That's her modus operandi in life, to be hungry. Um, cool. Sweet. Oh my gosh, it's almost 10 o'clock. We did get some coding in. I guess next week I'll save the auth for next week. If you, as I always say, if you have any questions for me in the last 10 to 15 minutes or so, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer them. I did it again. I'm gonna get better at that. Okay, so we've got this component just displaying the name from our database that we're saving from this form. That's pretty simple. Cats interrupting streams since the Egyptians. That's true. Getting in the way of the Nile, right? I also wanted to ask. I want to ask, what do you want to get out of this stream? What are you enjoying my format so far? What are some things maybe I could work on to make it better for you? What do you think I could do to get some more followers? That kind of thing. Feel free to send me some suggestions in the chat window. This stream's really for you. I mean, it is for me, but it's mostly for interacting with you. So I want to make sure that you, the watchers, are getting what you really want out of it. So let me know. I'm trying to think of what else we can maybe do tonight. We can do auth, but I won't be storing the user in any way yet tonight. That'll take me some time to write the actions and stuff like that. So I think I'll handle that next week. But I hope let's recap this really quick. Like, what we did was we set up Firebase in its own file so we could initialize it and then use that initialized Firebase to set up the database and the authentication we'll use next week. And if we need to export the Firebase instance anywhere and do anything with it, we do. The main one we've used is this initialized database. Database has a bunch of methods on it. You can find them here at firebase.google.com docs, right? You can find this, and then what you're looking for is the database here. The database has a bunch of things, like it explains snapshots and queries of the database. Like you can query it for other things, and you can handle things like on disconnect. But reference was the main one we were using. And reference has all these methods over here on the right, and these are the important things to learn and know. Making updates, sets, pushing, removing. Removing is like your delete, on. Like we used on, right? This listens for data changes at a particular location. The value event, that's what this, when I put value in one of them, I think it was name. That's an event name, right? That the value event. Every time this is updated, we call set state. Fires a snapshot. This is basically setting up a listener, is what this is doing. All right. So we set it up. We can pull our database where we need it. We'll do that next week. I think this is just a really easy way to kind of see how some things work. To see a slightly more complicated one, I can go to my console, and I can show you the database of an app that I was working on called Feed Me, which is a meal and menu planner, and you'll see a much more filled out database, I think. It's been a while since I used it. Kind of lost momentum on it. I need to get back to it. But yeah, okay. So I have meals. Each meal is stored with a unique ID. You can see that. I have menus. Those are stored with a unique ID. Menus have meals. So one of the interesting choices you have to make in Firebase is like, you don't have relationships. So you have to find some way of denormalizing your database so that you can easily get the information you need. So one of the things Firebase kind of recommends is, Firebase recommendations. And denormalizing. Maybe that'll help. Maybe that'll get the. Oh, that's a Stack Overflow question. That isn't what I wanted. What I mean by denormalizing is like how you structure your Firebase database really matters because it's just a JSON tree, but like you don't have relationships. You can't say, go find all the meals associated with this menu really easily. So you might actually do duplicated information to make it easier on reads. So you spend a little more time on your writes versus some time on your reads, right? That's what's important. I don't know what she's doing out there, but I'm gonna close the door. I think she might be wrapping some packages up to send back. We had some gifts we need to return. But this is a good read to do. I'll post this in here. If you're going to start using Firebase, this is important. Okay, if you tire of code exercising, you can always check open source projects on GitHub for easy starter issues. You get some real world practice, contribute to the community, build your brand as a developer. Yeah, that's totally true. I could totally maybe try some open source on here. I think that would be fun. I've been telling Henry Zhu for a long time that I would get started working on Babel at some point. I'm really intimidated by it, but he seems to think it's doable. So you can hear my cat's feeder going off, so that means it's getting close to 10 o'clock. So she's going to chow down right now. Lucas says, if I was using Redux, I would have to use some middleware since the Firebase API does everything async, right? Possibly. So what I have done so far in my applications is I have done it in the actions themselves. Oh, you meant for the other guy, not me. Well, hey, who knows? It could be fun to do open source on here too. I know, if you're not following someone else's stream, a friend of mine, her name is Susie Hinton. She does a really cool stream called, her name is Noopcat. So it's Noopcat. She does like Node on hardware. It's really interesting programming. She's super smart, really nice. And she's been doing this a long time. She gets like hundreds of followers a stream. She was actually at the Twitch event just a few weeks ago, doing it live at I think a conference, like a Twitch conference. It was pretty cool. But back to Lucas's question, I've been doing everything in actions. There are callbacks on things, so you could do thunks probably. I've not used sagas personally. I'm much more familiar with thunks, so that's another thing I have to learn. Put it on the list. Sagas. JSpec says, depending on the project, you might get the maintainer calling you a moron for your pull request. That is unfortunate. It would be much better if OSS was all nice people. I don't know what to say about that. It sucks when people aren't nice. I got nothing else. Bahul says, I think it would be beneficial to see you dive into some open source. All right. I will try and find something that looks like I can do. Even if it's just like I fork something and I do it, like maybe someone else already solved it, like in the meantime waiting. That might be useful. I don't do tons of open source for other people. I do a lot more for myself, but I have made a lot of things. In fact, one of the things I do a lot is just like I go find typos in the things I really like using, and I fix them for people. As silly as that sounds, people need to do it. Docs need to be better. So it's totally worth it. Lucas Frosty is freaking out that I have a mod. Yep, Knitcode Monkey is now my mod. I don't know if she'll ever need to use it. Hopefully not. But I gave her the banhammer rights, as I call it. She can ban your ass. Please don't ever give her a reason to do it. And I think she would feel really bad about it too. She's maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she's like thinks she's a hard ass. I think she's a really nice person, and I don't think she wants the stress of that. But I'm pretty sure she'd pull the trigger if necessary, which I think is a right degree of judiciousness to bestow that responsibility upon. So, congrats to Knit Code Monkey that she is my first mod. So yeah. Oh, sweet. I would feel bad that the chat was tainted enough to ban you adding accessibility here. If you didn't know, Jen Luker's deal, not deal, like her passion. That's a better word. Sorry. Her passion is accessibility. She made me realize things I hadn't ever thought of about accessibility, like being temporarily disabled, like holding a baby is like a temporary disablement of you only have one arm. And that might change how you work with things. That was really interesting to me. That one's always going to stick with me, I think. But, all right. I'm going to stick around for just a few more minutes. If you have any questions, please let me know. We didn't get quite as far as I wanted, but you did get to see how to add start up a Firebase app, how to get the code you needed to get Firebase linked to your application. You saw how to use an env file and how to set it up with Webpack to inject those things into your bundle. And then you saw how to export the database around your application and the auth. We just haven't done it yet. We'll do it next week. And then with all those things combined, we now have a backend that we can save and retrieve data from. So even though it doesn't seem like I did a lot tonight, like those things, that's like 8 things we were able to figure it out. Lucas asked questions. What are my thoughts on Parcel? To be perfectly frank, I haven't had a chance to use it. One of the things that keeps me actually learning things is that I don't jump to the very next, I don't jump at everything. I just don't have time. And I do a lot of reading. So I read what other people are doing who have time to do some of the other things, right? I think one of the hardest things about this industry is you constantly feel like you're behind because there is so much shit. What I do is I've curated my Twitter feed really well to provide me info about things like Parcel, and then I can mentally note it as something to look at when I have time, and not something I have to go do right now. But that being said, I think the zero config kind of thing is great for people who want to do that. I personally haven't run into too many issues with Webpack setups, but maybe I'm not doing a complicated enough Webpack setup. That's the caveat for everything. Maybe I'm not doing something so complex that I really need to have something where the config is done for me. That being said, I know plenty of people who don't want to even figure that stuff out, don't want to look at the docs. So more power to them if there's now a tool for them to do it. So those are my thoughts. I'll give it a try at some point. Maybe I'll have some time this week. Maybe not. But I will let you know if I have a bigger opinion at some point. But, I see nothing wrong with making zero config options for things. King Daro says he's going to wait a little bit. And Kevin says competition at area is great, though. I think competition is generally pretty good. Sometimes I wish people would just be like, stop competing and work together. But, it is what it is. So Jen is like, when did I become a mod? I sent you a message on Twitter, Jen. Go look at it. I made you a mod this afternoon. So that's when. All right, folks. It's a little past 10. My wife had a long work day. We only got about an hour with each other before I started the stream. And I don't really have anything else that I'm going to accomplish tonight. So I think I'm going to cut this off early. I want to really thank you all for spending your evening with me. Thank you for your continued support and involvement in this. I really appreciate getting to interact with you. And, I really hope that I'm providing something of value to all of you and to other people in this community. As always, please follow me on Twitter if you're not already. And so my DMs are open if you ever need to send me a message or ask me a question. You're perfectly welcome to do that. Just let me. I'll get to you when I have a chance. And then next week we'll just keep going with this. I'll do auth, and then we'll start tackling that Trello board I said of the things we need to learn about. And then just, I hope you guys have a happy new year. When we come back, when I see you next week, it'll be a new year. Do you realize that? It'll be 2018. So here's my my thing for you. If you want something like some homework to do, I would love it if you could come back next week when we stream again. And I would love it if you had like maybe a goal or two you could share in the chat with me, because I'd love to hear them. I'd love to know what you're trying to accomplish in the new year. I think that would be that'd be really cool to share. So Kevin's laughing at me. I gotta turn off those notifications. I do. Luckily, there was only one. Just Jen sending me a message. My phone has been going off in my pocket all evening. I'll work on that. I'll be more professional. With that being said, y'all, thank you very much. Have yourselves a really great night, and I'll see you next week. All right, bye.